Hey, how's it going, guys? Tujin here with MBT Studios, and today I'm going to talk about my endgame headphones. A pair of headphones that I've owned for a couple months now, and I really enjoy. But before we even dive into that, or basically, spoiler alert, it's the Elex, let me give you guys some background information before, just so you understand where I'm coming from. So, about 2 years ago, I thought I found my endgame headphones. In fact, I was transitioning from headphones to speakers because I was very compelled with speakers and I found them to be a superior way of producing music. I'll be quite honest, I'm a speaker guy. That's just my opinion. There's obviously a use case for headphones, but I really enjoy speakers. And if you see down over here behind me, I have LS50s, and those are my go-to desktop monitoring speakers. And before I transitioned to speakers, I was using Focal in-ears. And they're a bit controversial because the sound was a hit or miss for most people because it had a really funny frequency response. But for me, especially with my setup and my ears, they sounded phenomenal. And the Elex is no different. It sounds phenomenal, but they built on it. So the Elex is, if you haven't heard, it's a drop collaboration with Focal, and it's based on that same headphone. And essentially what they did was they made it more reference, and they took some elements from the bigger brother, the Focal Clears, to make these headphones. And I have been genuinely loving these headphones for the past 3 months that I've had them. In fact, this is my second pair of Elexes, and I'll tell you the story why these are my second pair. So let's start with the build and why I like this headphone just on build alone. They're built like tanks. And essentially, what massdrop was going for with the tuning was they wanted this to be the super HD 650s, which I agree. Now, if you ever heard HD 650s, a lot of people have. In fact, it was my gateway drug into high-end headphones. What I was looking for, because I didn't settle with HD 650s, is that I was looking for a headphone that was built better, a better quality build, and similar sound, but some differences. And the Focal headphones are very much so the upgrade from the HD 650s. And before the Lear came out, I thought the Elex, before the Elex came out, I thought the Lear was a very good compromise. I was, still having money in the bank, but I had a headphone that was very much to my taste and that I enjoyed. So when the Elex came out, I saw the stealth black finish, the reference sound, and just the price. And I was like, yeah, I need to own a pair of these. So I actually went out and bought a pair, but I didn't keep them for long. And it was just a stupid mistake on my part. So let's talk about the other stuff that comes with this headphone before I dive into sound and really explain what I did. So the Elex itself is essentially the same body as the Lear and the Clear. The driver is like a hybrid between the Lear and the Clears, but essentially you get a velour pad with it, but I actually swapped out those pads. I put the original Lear pads on it because it lessened up the clamp on my head, and it made it a lot more comfortable. So if you have a bigger head, you may not like the stock Elex pads because although they're velour, they're a bit stiff, and maybe over time they'll loosen up. But to me, I had Lear pads, so I popped them on and man, they're comfortable. So besides that, you also get 2 cables, a balanced XLR and a quarter unbalanced cable, which is very nice because these are cables that you would normally pay extra to get. Now, I know there are some QC issues with some people's cables, but I'll be honest with you. The fact that they look so nice, they look like upgrade cables that would cost maybe like $100 or more just to get, and you're getting 2 pairs of cables, which is really convenient. Gotta applaud Focal and massdrop for our drop to have those 2 cables at that price point with the Elex itself. So besides that, the unboxing is just like any other Focal headphone, and it's very straightforward. Now, let's talk about the sound. The reason why I like these headphones, despite moving on to speakers, is because they sound like speakers. And it was the same story with the Elex. Although it was a bit funky in the mids, it was enough for me to consider keeping them for a long-term time. Now, that didn't end up happening. I eventually got Z1Rs and HD 800s because there's curiosity, and curiosity does kill the cat. I think I'm on like my third life or something like that. But anyways, the Elex builds on that. So the reason why I sold my first pair of Elex so quickly is because the tuning of the Elex is very reference, and these are very high-end cans. And what happens with high-end cans that are very reference in tuning, or just very uncolored, is that when you have a DAC that is colored or treble tilted, like my Fostex HP88, it becomes a bright headphone. It becomes overwhelming with detail. And that was the mistake I made. And I thought the Elexes were bright because I had a very outrageously bright DAC connected to them. So what I learned is that the Elex is very sensitive to the equipment you use with it. Now, right now, I have the Audio GD NFB 28.28, and I think that has a Sabre DAC, but it's a very smooth very smooth highs that make this headphone sound so good. So let's start with the bass. What really blows me away with Focal headphones, they're a speaker company. And those headphones, the headphones that they make, sound like speakers. They're very dynamic, and the bass digs so deep. It's very confusing because most open backs don't have that bass extension or the presence that these Focal headphones do. In fact, a great comparison would be comparing them to closed back cans. Closed back cans inherently have better bass response, and that's what these Elexes or even the Lears sound like in the bass region. Despite being, open, airy, they have such good bass that it makes me think that there's a subwoofer on my head. In fact, it goes so far that I have LS50s in my near field listening channel, and a very good analogy, I guess, would be saying that these are like the LS50 equivalent of headphones. When I'm not able to listen to my LS50s, I put on these Elexes, and I feel like I'm getting a very measurable experience. It's almost same tier of sound, which is incredible in itself because LS50s take a lot to sound good, and they're very pricey and very well-made speakers. So the Elex delivers on that level. The mid-range is very similar to HD 650s. It's a intimate mid-range, but not as intimate as HD 650s, but the mid-range just sounds so sweet. Female vocals sound so good. I've found no sibilance with this headphone at all. And then the treble is very detailed, but the detail retrieval really depends on your DAC. And there's anything I learned, when you go higher end with headphones, the DAC, it's very reliant on DACs, especially with something that's so transparent like the Elexes and other high-end headphones. The treble can be as detailed as you want it to be. The soundstage is pretty wide, but not like HD 800s where it almost sounds a bit artificial. But just overall, it's so pleasing to the ear without, sweetening the pot or making it unbelievable. So really, the headphone themselves is essentially just taking that music that you're playing and just playing it as good as it can. It's really how I want to say it. And the Focal headphones sound like no other headphones. The Elex sounds like no other headphones out there. It doesn't sound like a Sony headphone. It doesn't sound like the Fostex TH600s or a planar headphone or, like from Odyssey or even the Sennheisers. It just does certain aspects so well and so different. It's really reminiscent of a speaker. In fact, I don't even feel like comparing it to other headphones. I feel like comparing it to a speaker, a bookshelf speaker, because that's really what it sounds like. It sounds like you have two bookshelf speakers strapped on each side of your head. But I mean, it's a lot less heavier, but that's really how I feel with these headphones. So if you're looking for an upgrade from any of the HD 600s, or you just want a headphone that is close to a speaker-like experience, I would really highly recommend the Focal Elex. And at the price point where I think they dropped the price from 700 USD to 600 USD, it's an absolute steal. And I don't think I'm going to replace these headphones at all. These have a permanent spot in my desk over here. And despite I don't use headphones as much as I used to, every time I do put on these headphones, I am not, displeased at all. So that's my honest opinion on these headphones. I really, really enjoy them. And the slight mods that I've done using the Elex pads works well for me. And I'm not using the stock cable because when I had Elex, I actually purchased a Venus audio cable, which is just a longer XLR balance cable, which works better for me just because I like routing my cables in a nice and neat manner. Besides that, guys, that really wraps up my review. Let me know if you have any questions or if you've had a similar experience with me. These are definitely headphones that you should try out and hear for yourself. So yeah, that wraps up this review. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.